What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr Wargames, bringing you an update to Pendulum Magicians. Now before we get started, it is Christmas Eve, so happy Christmas Eve to every single one of you, or happy holidays for those of you that are just having the day off to sit back and relax. Now I'm going to bring you an update to my Pendulum Magicians with, as you can see, a bit of a spicy engine, and I'll explain the usefulness of this engine as we go through the profile. With that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification button and subscribe. Get this video up to at least 50 likes and I'll bring you a full additional test hand video for this exact deck and show you what it can end on, what it can produce and how it operates in a little bit more extensiveness alongside, of course, the spicy engine that I've put in. Now, let's get into today's profile of Pendulum Magicians. Now, a lot of this is pretty straightforward and staple. So you start off with the triple harmonizing, or any Halifibrax plays just from the single card. It's also, but you do ideally use it and abuse it to get into your levels 8 synchros, your link 2 Halifibrax, and of course going into any of the rank 4s you need as well. As long as the other materials are magicians, you're all good to go. We've then got Triple Wisdom Eye. The fact that you just pop this, replace it in the scale and get the scale that you need. If you have 2 of them, you can do both of them. The only issue is with this card is you've got to be very, very careful because under Pendulum Call, it does clash massively. So we do play Pendulum Call, but it's not as heavily reliant. So this version doesn't use Dragon Shrine and doesn't use the Art Dragon as well, because there's just no need for it, because in this particular version we've replaced that engine. It is a 4-card engine, but we've replaced that engine of the Darkworm engine to be something a little bit more consistent, a little bit more like Halifibrax rank 8 synchro focused. We've then got Triple Chronograph. This is pretty much one of your free extenders and a nice level 8 synchro, level 8 scale, sorry. But the fact is you put this in a scale, you pop it, no matter whether you've got monsters on the board or anything like that, you gain yourself a monster on board. So it is another form of extender, being able to get into your Halifibrax plays. We've then got 2 Oath Dragon. 3 is way too bricky because it doesn't really utilize much more. Once it's been put in the scale, that's it. There is more than enough that you need, but on top of that, what it does do is the fact that if there's another Pendulum Magician in your scale. Then for the one-offs, you've got the 1 Dragon Pit. This is your other high scale, so these are your ideal scales in my opinion, because not only does this give you discard to pop any back row, this then allows you to consistently add back, and they're once per turns, but they're not like difficult to resolve. So once turn you go discard, pop, and the discard effect of this is actually quite useful because of the new engine we've put in here. Actually helps you utilize the graveyard as well, so it's not always a negative by putting a Pendulum monster in the graveyard. And then of course you've got your Oath Dragon constantly being able to add back, so discard, pop, add back, discard, pop, add back. Now obviously you do that on separate turns, but it does give you a nice out to Mystic Mine and anything like that. Then, of course, you've got the 1 Double Iris, the 1 Black Fang, and the 1 Purple Poison. I still really rate Purple Poison. It's still one of my favourite Pendulum Magician monsters, purely because the amount of times that, when this deck first came out, the amount of times that this card saved me was unreal. Like, especially when you think about it, Anti-Spell, the era when Anti-Spell was running around, setting this and having it pop to then pop the Anti-Spell was just, you know, it really, really helped. It's still good right now. It's not as good as it once was, but it's still very, very useful. But you've got your low scales, you've got your 2 high scales, and this is the one you want to pop because this one then get you your star, but ideally your Time Pendulum Graph, which becomes another form of interruption. And the best thing with this deck now that we're playing Pendulum Call is Pendulum Call protects your scales. So yes, you do lose it in the fact of you don't want to be using your Wisdom Eye Magicians, but you do gain in the sense that you don't need to worry much about the trap. The trap will always do a pop and ascend, and you don't need to go into the rank 4 Time Star in order to resolve that. Finishing off of the like Spellcaster Pendulum cards, we've got the 1 Time Gazer as your extender and the 1 Performer Power Celestial Magician. Again, this is playing your high scale, so the one thing you've got to be very, very careful of is your low scales aren't exactly high in this deck. You're only playing 2 in the form of Oath and Purple Poison, but the idea is you're going to be getting to them as early and as soon as you possibly can. The only issue is once they're gone, you do need to have the ability to try and get them back to the hand in order to cycle them back around, otherwise your scales will be locked out, and that's where it gets a little bit difficult, but that's where you can probably play the Endymion engine if you want to. Then for our only pretty much like another extender is Curtain Raiser. I'm not a massive fan of this, but it just fits in quite nicely. The fact that it's a level 4, the fact it's a dark, and the fact that is as long as you control no monsters, no other monsters, you can just pop this and summon it. Gives you that instant access without using your normal summon, without using your pendulum summon to get into HaliFibrax plays. And the idea behind a deck like this is it's so susceptible to something like Nibiru that if your 5th summon isn't like a Jackal King, if you play that version, or isn't a negate, you will get Nibiru'd. And what this particular version is we're going to use our normal summon, we're going to use everything apart from our pendulum summon to build our board, and build our board with negates. Then if our opponent stops that, we still have the pendulum summon that can follow back through, which can then set you up at least 2 Omni negates. And that is the big difference between, you know, playing through Nibiru and or pre-worrying about it. Then, of course, we've got Double Tuner Magician. Again, this card's just much more popular now with HaliFibrax around. The idea is that you want to be special summoning this off of a HaliFibrax, and then you're going to be using Selene to bring it back. Now, it does have its own effect that if you've got 2 Pendulum Magicians in your scales, it can bring itself back, but banish it when it leaves the field. Again, means that you can technically summon this card 3 times in a turn, 4 if you can include the normal summon, and really gives you a lot of utility to link climb higher. Now, in the previous version when we had Link Cross, we were using it to actually sync with. Right now, there isn't any amazing, outstanding level 5 synchros, which is the consistent levels that you're going to be left with on this board. So you're either going to be going for like a level 9, which is doable, but your level 9 would require you to go into a level 8 and then use the Tuner Magician, because all of your level 4s, 9 times out of 10, are going to be tuners. So Tuner Magician is there just to help you kind of link climb higher using the tuners, bringing it out of HaliFibrax, and it really helps. Then the Spicy Engine that I haven't seen anyone play yet, and as soon as this card came out, I was like, damn, this would be good in Pendulum Magicians, and that is Zoro, the Magistus of Flame. Now, I know a lot of you people are like, what does it do? Why is it so good? Now, the reason this is so good is on his own, a normal summon of this card with a discard fodder will get you into any of your extenders. Now, or any of your extenders, but gets you into HaliFibrax. Using this card and a discard, so it still gives you 3 cards to play around with. If one of them is a Pendulum Call, with anything like that, you're able to extend even further. Not to mention, if there's a card already in your grave or another spellcaster in your hand, on his own can help you extend. So what Zoro does is, you can target, so it doesn't need to be normal or special, as long as it is on the field. You target one Magister monster, which includes himself, and equip it with a Magister monster from your extra deck, which would be this card here, Artemis. Artemis, when it is equipped, or once it is equipped to a Magister monster, allows you to search out another Magister monster, which can, of course, search you out a second Zoro that can be Pendulum summoned, or you search out the Crowley, which Crowley is then a free level 4 dark special summon of a spellcaster that you, by discarding a spellcaster to the graveyard. Now, the second part of Zoro is once it becomes equipped with a Magister monster, it can special summon a spellcaster level 4 from your hand or graveyard. So if you were to use, for example, Pendulum Call, and now we're not using the Dark Worm, if you were to discard a Pendulum monster, as long as it is a spellcaster, Zoro can then become the normal summon equipped and then bring it back. This can also be a very good way of being baited by an Ash or an Imperm or anything like that. The fact he's a tuner allows you straight away on his own, just by using your normal summon and special summoning one spellcast from the hand, allows you to go into Savage Dragon straight away. It can let you go into HaliFibrax. It can also help you go into any rank 4 that you might want to, allowing you to build your board. The Crowler is an added bit of bonus because being able to add the Crowler allows you to discard it. Sorry, it allows you to discard another spellcaster to summon this down. So if you've been able to resolve Zoro's effect, you can actually get your board with 3 level 4 monsters, one of them being a tuner. Technically, 2 of them could be a tuner if Magister of Flame brings out another one. What that allows you to do is it does give you the ability to, with another extender, make your HaliFibrax plays, but also make a Savage play as well. That then means that all of your plays link climbing higher, going through the HaliFibrax combo is protected, meaning that you don't need to end on a Appaloosa, but you can. And straight away, before you even use your Pendulum summon or any of your other additional special summons off of your Harmonizing Magician or anything like that, you already have a Savage, you already have an Appaloosa, you are protecting yourself beyond belief. The other thing that makes this so important is, what you can do is once Crowler is in the graveyard, on your next turn, if you were to top deck this or have this or anything like that, you can normal summon Zoro, use Crowler's effect to banish itself to equip Artemis from the graveyard to Zoro. Zoro will then trigger his effect to special summon from the graveyard or from your hand. So if you've already put like an XYZ material that is a level 4 spellcaster in the graveyard, you can bring it back. On top of that, Artemis will then go off to get you another copy of Zoro, meaning you've got your final copy of Zoro in the hand that can be pendulum summoned out or used the turn after. There's a lot of synergy with this card. It works incredibly well. Yes, it does require your normal summon, but there's a lot of times that I've seen a lot of people go, okay, special summon Curtain Raiser, normal summon your Harmonizing Magician. And then throughout your entire plays, you need to get Oath Dragon to get Harmonizing back to your hand. Whereas in this one, you don't even need to worry about putting this down as your normal summon or trying to get this back from the zone, which means your Oath Dragon can actually add you back any spellcaster, again, instigating further plays or maintaining your resources without having to overdraw, which is what makes it so, so good. We finish it off with the Red Eyes Fusion package of the Dark Magician, the Red Eyes, and of course the Red Eyes Fusion. This is Plan D, ladies and gentlemen. This is, if your opponent has Nibiru'd you, if they have impermed you, if they have ashed you, if they have done everything in their power to stop you playing, yet you still have your Pendulum Summon, or you still have the ability to get 2 monsters on the board, you make Verte Anaconda, you can then, of course, go into Dragoon, and that is still an incredibly powerful monster that your opponent, after burning through their entire hand trying to stop you build, is still going to struggle to deal with. One thing that I will say that when we get to the extra, it's something you can consider, is Link Spider, purely on the fact that if you do get Nibiru'd, at least with using Link Spider, it unlocks another Pendulum Zone for you, but just by Pendulum Summoning one monster, you can then use that one monster plus the Link Spider to make your Verte Anaconda. Moving on to spells, we've got Triple Pendulum Call. This is Ash Me. Like, literally, this card screams Ash every single time. Now, obviously, when you're using the Dark Worm effect, discarding Dark Worm, if this gets Ash, you're like, right, don't care. Excellent, fine. Dark Worm, come out, let's go. But in this version, what makes it so different is, technically, without even needing to use Dark Worm, you're discarding any spellcaster, allows Zoro to bring it back. So your Zoro becomes your Dark Worm as long as you have the Zoro in the hand. That is the only big issue, is that you need to have Zoro in the hand, but you also need to have Dark Worm in the hand to make this resolve. Pendulum Call, then 9 times out of 10, the cards you're going to go for are going to be your Harmonizing and your Oath, and then from that point on, you're good to go. So if you were to have this and just a discard, as long as that discard is a spellcaster, Zoro does its entire effect, getting you into Halifibrax, leaving in your hand your Oath and, of course, your Harmonizing, meaning that you've already got your scales set up. So you don't even need another Pendulum monster to set up the scales, because you're only going to be able to climb through this point onwards. The only issue is that all of the cards you're using to link climb up are not going to be pendulums. So it does mean that the Crowler will be your additional extender should you get Nibiru'd. So then you go Nibiru token into Link Spider, bring down Crowler, and then go into Verte Anaconda. There's a lot to consider, but again, incredibly powerful and useful. True Allure of Darkness, I mean, we've already gone over how the Abyss Actor is a dark, easy banish fodder. If you've already got a monster on the board, it's the easiest banish fodder you'll ever get. But the rest of your deck is obviously quite a lot of darks as well. The one card that you want to make sure you do not banish off of your Allure of Darkness is, of course, going to be your Purple Poison, because you need to make sure that you maintain. This is the one thing that I will drill home to you guys if you plan to build this build, is you do need to make sure you maintain your lower scales. The second you lose your lower scale resource, that's where you're going to struggle. But you shouldn't get to that point if you play it correctly. True Duelist Alliance. Now, arguably, you could play Pendulum Call at 2 if you wanted to, but you want to see Pendulum Call. If you see Pendulum Call plus Zoro and any spellcaster discard, you're good to go on a rampant run. Double Desires, again, could be free if you want to, entirely up to personal preference. 1-star Pendulum Graph and 1-time Pendulum Graph. Now, 9 times out of 10, because we're using Pendulum Call, we want our Duelist Alliance to be able to search out our time Pendulum Call, because if we use Pendulum Call, it's going to protect our scales, meaning we can't make Tornado Dragon to pop our own scale to then search out a time Pendulum Graph. Star Pendulum Graph, again, is very, very good in order to maintain your hand resource. And like I said, with this particular build, it's a lot about control. You need to be able to control your plays, control yourself, and control the build, because you don't want to go, blah, here's my entire hand, break it and win. You want to be able to go, blah, here's my entire hand, minus 3 cards that I've been able to keep hold of. If you break this board, I'm going to come back. Simple as that. And that's what you need to make sure you do with Pendulum Magicians right now. Moving on to the extra deck, we'll start off with everything bar the Link monsters at the moment. So we've got your 2 level 8s. So you've got the 1 Savage and you've got the 1 Ignister. Now, this is your aggressor, this is your defender. If you wanted to change this up, you can, of course, play Omega. You can, of course, play Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend, which is one of my personal opinions that I would personally play, maybe above Ignister. But what makes these so different or makes these so good is Savage is a must, in my opinion, absolute staple, because you get into this with using Zoro straight away, and like I've explained already, you're able to pretty much build your board and continue to go. For your XYZs, you've got Abyss Dweller and you've got Tornado Dragon. Again, two of the most important and powerful cards right now. Tornado Dragon is incredibly good against Virtual World if you go first, because then you just use Tornado Dragon. Technically becomes a secondary negate in a sense that if they were to activate Quinlon and put the trap on board, you Tornado Dragon, get rid of it. It then makes it a lot more difficult for your opponent to play. And Abyss Dweller just generally being able to shut out the graveyard, especially when you're looking at like comboing these two off together. So usually Tornado Dragon on his own against Eldritch is quite bad, because you pop their back row, they then go, okay, cool, graveyard banished, start setting out their board. Whereas if you use Abyss Dweller and Tornado can pop freely, and then the Abyss Dweller is going to stop them using their search effect in the end phase. The only fusion we play is of course Dragoon, because that's going to come off the back of Verte Anaconda. We only play the one Artemis. Like I've shown you already, you can loop this with Crowler and you can bring it out with Zoro. You're not going to link summon it. It is a space in the extra deck that you might want to cut, but I think the engine is just too good and worth it for this one card. Then for your link 2s, of course, you've got your Verte Anaconda, you've got your Crystron Halifibrax, and you've got your IP Masquerena. Now, IP Masquerena, in my opinion, is just one of them cards that, again, as a alternative option. So if you were to get absolutely stomped and absolutely held back, but you had the ability to get into Verte Anaconda and then make an IP Masquerena, what this will then allow you to do is you can then bring out your Dragoon and then use, during your opponent's turn, you can then use IP Masquerena plus Verte Anaconda to either make your Nightmare Unicorn or your Nightmare Phoenix, providing more disruption to your opponent and causing them more issues. Now, it's not ideal. IP Masquerena is a little bit flexible here. It's down to personal preference. I just think it's such a good generic link too that is incredibly powerful and incredibly important, that the only thing I would swap this out for would be that Link Spider, just coming off the back of the Nibiru drop. Then, of course, you've got two Selene Queens of the Master Magicians. Now, there's a reason you play two of this. This card is incredibly powerful. Not only does it let you instigate your Link climbs going through your first turn, but it also gives you recursion going through your second turn. Now, again, the only other, like, sacrifice you have to make by playing the Zoro engine is, if you look at the Darkworm engine, you're going to be able to go Darkworm, get your scale 0, Pendulum Call is going to be in the graveyard, or of course your Dragon Shrine is going to be in the graveyard, meaning this is a little bit more consistent. But off of the back of that, you've got to keep in mind as well that I do believe that the monster, Artemis, becomes an equipped spell. I could be wrong on that. If it does, then Zoro's absolutely fine, because then playing Pen Call plus Zoro gives you your free there. But once Zoro goes, then obviously this is going to go to the graveyard. So you do have to be very, very careful on the way you're playing this. It does require an additional spell to make Selene live, but you should be able to get that as you play through. And then finishing off, we've got our defensive Link 4 in Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess, and our aggressing Link 4 of Access Code Talker. Now, you could play Boral Sword if you want to. What you could also do, which is something that I would advise, is you can also play either a Link Kuriboh or a Relinquish Anima, or you're playing a Link Spider, in the sense that the way this works is Selene brings back Dark Magician, or Selene brings back Dark Magician, Tuna Magician, or I think it's just those two. So you bring either of those two back. You turn the Dark Magician into Link Spider, or you turn the Link Kuriboh, the Tuna Magician into a Link Kuriboh or Anima, and then you use Selene plus that and go into an Avramax. So if you don't have access to Access Code, you can go into that. But what you've got to keep in mind is, by your second turn, once it comes back round to you, you might have an Appaloosa graveyard already. That's a wind attribute. You should have a Halifibrax, which is water. You should have Selene, which is light. You should also have a Verte Anaconda, which is dark. So Access Code is going to get a very, very nice 4 pops. Non-target pops is going to be boosted by 3k, because you're probably going to use him with Selene. That, on top of it, does give you even more power and ignition. Not that you need it, but Access Code can just be one of the ones where you go, right, okay, whatever's left on my board, put it all into Access Code. Access Code's going to clear the board off, and then I've still got the Pendulum Summon to go from it. And all I need to do, with this being 53 and clearing my opponent's board off, I just need to get that additional 27 on the board, which is easily done when you've got cards like Zoro that can bring back and go into any rank 4 or Link level 8 Synchro. You pretty much push the game from that point on. And that is it, guys. Now, I hope you like this. Again, it is a very, very long-winded profile, but I wanted to explain my choices. When I put a profile together like this, yes, you'll get your staples of, okay, triple harmonizing, pen call, stuff like that. But when you put in a little engine like the Magisters, I want to justify it to you guys. I want to justify it in a, not that I'm so stuck to this engine that it has to work for everyone, but in a sense of, this is why I've put it in here. This is my personal reasons for using this engine. This is what this engine offers to the deck. And then it comes down to your interpretation, your personal preference of going, no, I still like the Dark Worm version. I think it adds this to it. Or, okay, I see where you're going with this. I like that. Maybe I'll add in the Madam Veer Magister, or maybe I'll add in the Trimagisters to let me special summon a spellcaster from hand. Anything like that. It just gives you the ability to keep on playing the game, even if you don't have the scales, if you get Nibiru, anything like that. It allows you to draw out hand traps, it allows you to build your board, and it allows you to consistently win games playing through what is currently the full-on hand trap format. So it's either you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! Under VFD or Vanity's Ruler, or we're going to play as many hand traps to stop that happening, that you're not going to be able to play the board because you're only going to be able to play one card that's always going to be constantly negated. Obviously, this will all change once we get Crossout Designator, but that's another story. Anyway, like I said at the start, guys, smash that like button, hit that notification bell, get this video up to 50 likes, and I'll bring you a test time video to show you the full power and the combo behind the Magisters. But for now, as absolutely always, guys, stay safe, have an amazing Christmas break, Christmas holiday, happy holidays, anything that you are doing. Hopefully, you are being able to at least put your feet up for that one day at the very least. Stay safe, guys, and as absolutely always, happy Christmas.